Well, yeah, and I guess this was the epitome of it. Was Christy Overton asked me what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Brett's driving, Christy's skiing. I mean, in the passenger seat, and I was skiing. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, I don't think I'm thinking. And so she says, again, and the next pass, I almost see her talk to Brett. And then she goes, well, no, I can see your lips are moving. She goes, are you giving yourself keys?
Uh-huh.
I said, no, I'm singing.
What?
She goes, are you serious? I said, yeah. And she goes, what are you singing? I'm singing. I said, I'm singing this Four Non-Blondes song, What's Up? And she looked at Brett and goes, no wonder he's so good.
All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of the Water Ski Podcast. In this episode, I interviewed the great, legendary Wade Cox. What a pleasure that was. Wade was in town a few weeks ago to see his kids for Parents Week here at Florida State. So we took a chance to have a nice morning together at Lake 38, and we just chatted. We talked a lot, and we talked about his career, what he's up to now, what he believes works in slalom, some of his successes, and some of not so much successes. We covered a lot, and it was a true pleasure to sit down with one of the big names in our sport and just talk skiing. I think you're all going to enjoy this one. It was true testament of Wade's positive, uplifting, and inspiring character. So, without further ado, here's the interview with Wade. Well, Wade, what a pleasure, man. What a pleasure to be here with you. We're at Lake 38 right now. You came in town to Tallahassee. What were you here for?
Well, not only my daughter's 21st birthday, but my son, who's 19, they both go to Florida State, so go Seminoles.
There you go. Nice. You can see it on your shirt as well. Okay, so, well, super pleasure to interview you. You're one of my childhood heroes. I grew up with posters, of you in my room at the ski school, watched the tapes, had it all. So it's a true honor.
Thank you.
One of the things I don't know about you, though, and I would love to learn about it, is how did you get involved into skiing? How did you get into the sport?
Well, we actually used to camp in the summer, basically from Memorial Day in the U.S. is end of May to Labor Day, end of August or first week of September. We would camp a lot on public lakes. And so we had a pull behind, caravan, the Australians or Brits would say. And then we just sort of lived outdoors. We had a Coleman grill, so we could cook bacon and sausage and eggs outdoors. We would ski when we woke up. And then my grandmother would be cooking breakfast. And then once we got done with breakfast, then she would want to take one run. And she did this till she was 65.
Wow.
She would do with the ski belt, right? A yellow Ski Masters ski belt. She would do a beat start with Jackie O shades on, like Jackie Onassis.
Yeah.
So only my papa would drive, and that little tri-hull Glastron with a 75 horse Merc, and my granny with like 3 loops of rope would do a beat start and ski one lap around the cove, ski a beats landing, when keep her hair dry and sunglasses on. I'm like, why wouldn't you want to do this, man?
Right.
Like, it's the coolest thing ever. And that was my grandma. And then my Uncle Jimmy skied in tournaments, sort of late 60s, early 70s. And he was an Army guy, and he was a pilot. So, I mean, it's like Top Gun guy going water skiing. You're like, well,
Seems
okay,
like,
well, he was that guy. He's like, jeans, white T-shirt,
Yeah.
And he'd come home, and all he wanted to do was go water skiing. He ripped it on a wooden O'Brien. And it was like the coolest ski in the world, I thought.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like a lot of key people in your family that you look up to that skied.
No,
so
that
why
was
wouldn't
it.
you?
Absolutely, yeah. We had no idea about tournaments, regionals, nationals, worlds, nothing. Just going out on the lake having fun skiing.
Do you remember your first set?
In the course?
Your first water ski set?
Nah, because I was like 4.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Then I slalomed at 6. I was barefooting at 8. And so we were doing everything. By the time I was 8, we were riding saucers.
Oh, yeah.
With chairs on it, riding air mattresses, tractor tires, whatever you could get up and have fun on, we were doing it.
Nice. And so so by the time you tried the course, you were also doing a lot of other things on the water.
Yes,
right?
yes. I was 10. Yeah, I guess it was summer when I was 10 when I finally got on the course, and I didn't make it the first try, but I could make it. I made it first set. I was already like, hey man, this is cool. Yeah, this is what they've been talking about, you know.
Right.
So yeah, then right away at the lake there was Kyle Tate and John Tate.
Okay.
And Kyle, sort of lifelong BFF, won Big Dogs a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And then his son, Cooper Tate, holds the boys 1 U.S. national record today. But the coolest thing is once I met Kyle and John, then within a couple years, I guess summer 81, the second summer, or third summer, Kyle won the nationals in 80, and then I won the nationals in 81. And two little, kids out of a little water ski club in South Arkansas. So it was a really unique experience to go from not knowing tournaments existed to within 2 years being national champion.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden there was a whole nother level of,
wow. Commitment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that, so those 2 years and winning national, was that what, I guess, got you into it, like, full on,
Yeah, I think there was a, sort of at that same deal, I was already becoming aware that, certainly once I won the nationals, I was only 12, but then I went right back to school. And then I'm back doing regular school sports, realizing I'm not even the best guy on our team. I'm just a role player on my football, basketball, whatever, track. It didn't matter. I was just going to be, I'll be really good. But I'm like, man, in water skiing, I'm the best in America.
Right. That's
it's
a good metric,
Yeah, I was like, holy cow, man, this isn't like, hey, man, this is huge,
Right.
So it was just, I don't know. It was just something was like, there was something about that was like, wow, this is really, really different, and I want to do it. I want to keep doing it. And then all of a sudden I'm meeting others, and then by the time I was 12 at nationals, now I'm talking about with sponsors, and now I know who Carl Roberge, Sammy Duvall, Bob LaPointe. Yeah, I mean, these guys are rock stars and superstars in the Spray magazine and Water Ski Mag. So yeah, it was happening.
Yeah, and at the time you were doing all three or just slalom?
Yes, I was. In fact, someone laughed the other day. They saw my old bio. They're like, bro, you used to trick? I said, yeah, and jump. Thank you very much. So, yeah, my first nationals that I won there in 81, I was first in slalom and second in tricks. And that was a neat deal. And then I just jumped just for overall. I still finished top 10. I was 9th or 10th. But yeah, that was a neat deal. And then eventually I tied Sammy Duvall's boys jump record, but then I broke my leg trying to really,
push it.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then that was sort of the beginning of the end of my jump career. That one crash, and
Okay.
so by the time I was 18, 19, I was pretty much done with tricks and jump, and
Just slalom.
yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot had happened in there.
Yeah.
From that 81 to like 88. I 3-evented like crazy and really gotten good to where when I was, I don't know, maybe 15, 16, I was already 9th in the world in tricks on the rankings list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was better than I was in slalom, and made me mad because
Wow.
I'm like, well, I want to be a slalom guy, but my tricking got really, really good. Yeah.
You gotta be like one of the few guys I've ever heard that said, I wanted to be a slalom skier, but almost like for whatever reason, my tricks are better. Never happens,
No, exactly. My dad was, and I grew up with Britt and Ton
Yeah.
Larson, and their dad got us into really doing a lot of sequences and timed sequences. So I got really disciplined to, banging out 2-3 tricks. And then when we were at Jack's, when I was at Jack Travers, sort of through high school, me and Jim Clooney in particular, man, our weekend fun before we could drive cars was, hey, let's go trick skiing.
Right. Right.
And so you just go, you're just out there with your boardies on and your trick ski, and you're learning. We were doing double ups and flips off the double up and just screwing around.
Yeah.
And that's we always had the most fun trick skiing.
And I think that's what's cool about tricks as opposed to say like slalom and jump. There's a lot of variability. So you have to be disciplined to become a great trick skier.
Yes, you do.
But you can also go and fuck around a little bit,
Right. And in the balance, I think that's what a lot of the parents that I get a working relationship with their kids, and I'm coaching them. I'm like, man, keep them on the trick ski. Let them go have fun. I've heard a few parents, well, I don't want my kids to go out and have fun on the trick ski. I want them to practice. I'm like, let them go have all the fun they want.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like I'm playing the piano. It's opening up their balance and their what they're capable of, and until they go out and have a lot of fun and get their balance so good, then it's really hard to learn tricks.
Right.
If you're if you're falling going across the wakes, you ain't doing flips, man.
No.
So.
And I think there's transfer. Like obviously a lot of people can argue for or against, but if you see a lot of overall skiers around the world who are great slalomers, both in the men and in the women, and they'll attribute it to being good trickers and good jumpers too. Like that I guess completeness of the athlete.
Well, I was around water skiing my whole life, 40 years now, but I spent 5 solid years coaching lacrosse.
Ah, that's right.
Both my kids became really high-end, lacrosse players, and hey, I traveled with them. We went to the nationals of lacrosse, so to speak.
Wow, yeah.
So it was really cool for me because I had to learn lacrosse from the ground up. And when I say that from the ground up, that's the way they taught lacrosse.
Okay.
Without the stick initially. On the balls of your feet, here's your balance, here's the way we're going to move. And I was like, voila! That's what I've been waiting on, because I was already disciplined to that myself. That
Right.
I knew, per the trick ski analogy, that as soon as that boat got up and I got ready for the green buoys, which we used to not have, that's
Right.
another story.
Right.
Then I knew I had to just simply stand over my ski correctly and move correctly, use my tools, so to speak. And there was magic there.
Right.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah.
It was there. And it was just like sort of, riding the trick ski. Once you just sort of are standing on it and you have balance.
Yeah.
And that's what now I'm disciplined to my coaching is, if you're slightly off balance, I just call you out on it. I go, hey, right there, you're just simply off balance, aren't you?
Right.
So you're off balance. You're scared for your life. You're at that point coming off whatever 3-ball 38. And you're not thinking about placement, where you're going to be, how fast you're going, how much load you actually really have. No, man, you're just thinking, I hope I don't die on the way to four ball.
Right.
Right. So it completely changed my outlook on water skiing. Once I did all that lacrosse coaching, I was like, man, everybody's off balance and nobody's calling them out on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I'm like, well, hey, man, well, here's what happens when there's a fundamental breakdown in your stance. Here's what happens to your ski. You've taken your $2,000 ski and you're using like a $9 boat paddle as a brake. And so now you're asking me why things won't happen.
Yeah. With that look in the water, like, wait, why is it not working, man?
Yeah, no, exactly. And so anyway, it was very enlightening to go learn a sport from some really, really, really awesome coaches, and I knew nothing about the sport.
That you didn't know the rules.
I didn't know nothing about the rules, Matteo. Nothing.
Right,
you know?
Zero. Yeah.
Zero.
That's what I would start in lacrosse. I have zero idea.
It was really, really, like I said, it was just completely enlightening to do so. And then I got to the point where once my kids were 12, 14, and sometimes I'd be their head coach for their team for short times. Most of the time I would be defensive coordinator, but sometimes I'd be the head coach, and I would get my kids to basically give me the starting lineup.
What?
Because they sort of understood the trust factor that they needed on the field. Okay. And I would ask them, hey, so who am I starting at? You know, who's my best three on defense, and who's my three midfielders today? You know, who's my best three attackers, you know? Wow. And I'd sort of just talk it out with them. And I'm like, you know, hey, well, what about this guy over there? I mean, he's a little turnover prone, you know, and, you know, or maybe his little help defense isn't really. And I was like, wow, this is cool, man. These are my 12-year-old kids. And they're just like actually informing me. Yeah. You know, so it was really a neat experience. And now that's the way I coach with all my juniors is I want them to own it. Yep. I'm like, tell their parents, no, parents come talk to me. Don't talk to your kid.
Yeah, that's a challenge,
kids,
isn't it?
Yeah, I want the kids to come and talk to me as well.
Yeah.
It's a neat deal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think because I really want to talk with you about coaching throughout this, but I think we skipped from, you know, possibly first nationals to then like your end of overall career to your coaching. And there a lot happened in between. Yeah. A lot happened. So after, you know, you're 18, 19, you dropped the overall. Were you already in the Pro Tour at the time?
You know, I guess my first pro event would have been Moomba in 85.
Oh, okay.
And then I tricked and jumped. Did all three in junior Moomba. Won all three events. That was kind of a neat deal.
You jumped on the Yara.
Yeah. I did night jump as well. Didn't do the day jump. It was 6 foot. Yeah. And then that summer, so when I broke my leg, would have been 85. And it was a little recovery period. And then 86, 87 were kind of slow, although I did ski maybe U.S. Open. And 87, I think, was the first U.S. Open. Jumped in that. That was interesting. 3 evented in that. But then 88 was the first full year on the Pro Tour for me. The Pro Tour, I think the first year was 83. That was a full 8 or 10 events. Yep. So my first year was 88 because from 85 to 87, I only skied limited. You know, a few pro events, Shreveport. Yeah. You know, U.S. Open here. One up in maybe Augusta, Georgia. Yep. Yeah. But then by fall 87, I'd graduated high school and I moved in with Carl Roberge. And then I learned what being tough was.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. He was another level of toughness that I hadn't seen. And he basically just, you know, in a way just said, you got to cowboy up. And that winter it was really cold. And he would ski and he wouldn't complain, and he would do his deal, and he'd knock down his sets. And I was like, wow, man, that dude's out there and it's 40 degrees and 10-inch chop, and he's out there shredding it, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a you know, kind of tough pill to swallow, to realize you just got to get way tougher.
Yeah.
But that was cool, and then that was right then, you know, sort of where I dropped the tricks and jump both.
Okay. Was Carl doing still slalom and jump at the time?
He was jumping. He wasn't tricking much.
Okay.
Because he was the only, not the only guy. There's guys that have won slalom events and jump events.
Yeah.
You know, but he's the only guy ever that he could win both events in any given weekend. Yeah. You know, he was just that good.
Right.
So he was a cool guy to hang out with, you know, as far as that goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, certainly inspirational, you know. How long did you stay with him?
I guess we skied together quite a bit for even into the early 90s. It was like 4 or 5 years. We skied together quite a bit because Brett Thurley skied with us. You've seen that clip on the internet.
Yeah, I did. Were you betting a sandwich? What was it?
Yeah, for lunch. Yeah. Just bet for lunch at the All Pro Subs. Yeah.
The All Pro Subs.
Yeah,
I can't remember who.
And Christy Overton was there too. It was the four of us.
Oh, okay.
And you had to buy if you were last.
Ah, okay. To buy if you were last. Do you remember who won in that particular day?
No, it didn't really matter. You just didn't want to lose.
Oh, so who lost that day?
Well, Carl was winning. That video clip was 88, and he ran 39. Damn. In that day.
Damn.
You know, and then at the end of 87, that's when, you know, Shaylander and Andy both ran 39 in a tournament for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw Carl do it in 82 in practice, and then I saw him jump in 82 when the record was 202. I saw him land about a 210.
Wow.
So 82, yeah, he jumped 210 and ran 39.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was. I was like, said, Dad, can I go back and ski with him some more? Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, we're like 35, 37 years later, and there's a handful of selected people around the world that can do both of those, right?
Yeah.
Run 39 and do 210, but I don't know, what would be the comparison now? Like 5 at 41 and 225?
Yeah, you know? no, it was yeah, he was really special, and like I said, that the sort of coaching deal, and then Christy was skiing with us a lot, and I sort of took on her as you know, spent a lot of time working sort of with her stance and balance and stuff then, and then she just went to another level, and I was pissed, to be honest, because Carl's crushing it, and now Christy's crushing it, and I'm like, me and Brett are like, well, what's wrong with us, man? You know,
right.
So we, you know, at that point, we knew we had to get bigger, stronger, more flexible, you know, build our bodies better, nutrition better, you know, all of that stuff off the water.
Yeah. Became,
you know, about, you know.
Yeah, improving that.
Qualifying, getting through the round so you could, as my mentor, my mental guru, Tommy Phillips would say, you're going to ski your best on Sunday.
Right.
Because that's when it mattered.
Right. Yeah, and I think, I mean, we do know that, like, and I think you can testify to that, like, when we're trying to become good at anything, at first you make huge improvements in a small time. But then as you continue to progress, it takes a long time to make those small improvements. And they're not just about where your hips are, right? It's what you do outside of the water, what you put in your body, how you rest, you know?
Yes.
Where your mind is at.
So So all of that evolved. Yeah, Matteo, as I started, you know, through those late 80s, now I'm on the tour getting crushed.
Okay.
You know, I mean, just stoked if I could get a second, you know, a third, because there were so many good guys, you know. Yeah. And so then by once I met Tommy, we mentioned Tommy Phillips, then I got into your, expertise.
Yeah.
And I love it. You're a Seminole as well, getting your doctorate in sports psychology. I think that's just really, really cool because my dad made, I think we chatted about this. He made me and my little sister read the Inner Game of Skiing, which is the snow ski book on sports psychology, written maybe in the 70s or late 60s, whenever.
It's 70s, yeah.
And then Inner Game of Tennis. So then I become a pro water skier. My sister played college tennis. So, it sort of worked. Yeah. So
Your dad placed the right books at the right time.
Yeah, he sort of knew. And then we were watching video at the 80 Nationals. I remember Dad videoed all this. And Karen Roberge, we watched a lot of her. And
Is that Carl's sister?
Yes. Yep. And she was world record holder, world champ, masters champ.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really, really good. So we watched her like on video do toe fives, reverse toeic back-to-backs and stuff. And I watched that, and then I learned it all over the winter. I would learn like $2.5 grand worth of points because we were watching the video.
Yep.
So Carl's dad was sort of, being working on the space shuttle. He was a designer of the space shuttle. He told Carl that your skis are going to change and you're going to jump really, really far.
Oh yeah, I've heard that story.
Yeah. And so it was sort of a really neat, learning curve for us because when Andy and I first started battling in 92, I'd already been with my mental guru that spring, and I really got dialed in, and I stopped going John McEnroe all the time. And
were you smacking skis or what?
Oh yeah, everything. There's stories galore. But I would snap, but because I would be mad at myself, because I knew I could do it, and I was learning how to focus, but yeah, sort of.
No, let's stay there. What would you do? What was it? Do you remember an episode?
Oh yeah, a bunch, but yeah.
Share one. Come on. Just one.
Well, I kicked the trash can in like 98. That's way later. I thought I'd learn how to control it, but
came back.
Oh, it would come back, but whatever.
What about the one that made you the one that you did and made you think, okay, wait, that's a bit excessive. We got to learn how to control this.
Well, no, a bunch. But I couldn't, and it was all good. I understood it. Even somebody said to me once, they're like, hey, wouldn't you rather not do that and be a little more gentlemanly-like? I said, yeah. I said, but if I won the tournament and then I didn't scream and holler and act like an idiot, then they wouldn't appreciate me.
Right.
Because they knew they would get both.
So it was part of you.
I would be super into it, when I would win. And I'm like, well, if I do bad, then I wasn't at other people at all. Yeah. It was always just, something that I was learning to control and didn't do so good at. But yeah, the putting all that together through all of that learning on the trick skiing and then all that. And then all of a sudden, like I said, throwing the book out, the world record just sort of shot up. It was at 4.5 at 38. A couple years later, it's at 1 at 41.
What happened?
Andy and Shaylander just all of a sudden got light years better, and then Shaylander's body didn't last, and then I'd gotten a lot better. Yeah. And a lot of that Tommy Phillips mental stuff, and because he was doing a lot of Anthony Robbins, Zig Ziglar stuff with me, and focus on the positive. What are we going to work on? What's going to be our diligent manner that we're going to get these things resolved and work towards, and so that's spring 92. I got where I was really getting dialed in, and then that just set us off on a different path. And you see a lot of those. I saw some of them. I moved not too long ago, and a couple more than one magazine article, Andy, Wade, and the rest.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that's kind of bad, you know. But it was, it was that was all of a sudden another whole deal.
So you mentioned like how in those 2 or 3 years, not only you improved, but the world record improved by what, like 8 buoys, 7 buoys?
Just in a very short, just in like 4, 5, 6 years, it just went all the way through a pass and then some.
So do you think it's just like, the top guys pushing it hard, or something else happened? Like, was there more on the line?
No, I think it was just a lot of the money, maybe that was already there, and people were, and if you look at, well, it was becoming more we were becoming more prototypes.
Okay.
I mean, if you're 6'3", 180, there's a really good chance.
Yeah.
Because there's already a lot of product built for you, and hey, we need to be a little more reach, and maybe it helps a little more leverage. But I think product, boat drivers, I think there's a lot of things that sort of all of a sudden was like, wow, yeah, we were getting far better with our skis, with the way we were approaching it, and then by 93, of course, there had already been a big growth there up to 87 when Andy and Mike started running 39, but in 93, we got pre-gates. We didn't even call them pre-gates yet, but we got pre-gates, and then all of a sudden it was like the jumpers with the 700 now. Oh, hey, man, well, thank you very much. It's another, and just made more for precision.
So, yeah, that's like made it more consistent.
Right.
And I think that's what maybe, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, but like over the years, maybe the great things that happen in skiing have to do with making it more consistent, right? So I'm thinking GPS control systems. The ski production has become a little bit more, like fine-tuned, and skis are more the same, The pre-gates obviously allow you to be more precise into the gates. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting. All right, so those years happen where all of a sudden you have a spike of performance, and then Andy, Wade, and the rest.
Well, yeah, I had already worked a bunch. We talked about with Tommy, but with Mike Ferraro since I was little. With Jack Travers working with with jumpers, and Jack helped me and my dad with my trick run, and so Brett and I, Brett Thurley, we skied with Mike Siderhoud. In spring '92, and then he really switched me on to that. There was a certain speed that I was looking for on my gate turn-in. That we're looking for the optimum speed, the optimum sort of time when we go out, how much speed we build. So we build that arc, so to speak, and then we come back in place where we trust, where we think, hey, man, if we do this out, then we get this coming back in. So basically from June 92 until 07,
yeah,
16 seasons, that's as simple as my skiing was.
That's all you cared about.
That's all I cared about. That I made it like a serve in tennis.
Yeah.
That this is my tee shot in golf. That when I did that was going to be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting because, I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing about slalom skiing is as complex as you want to make it, right?
Yes.
Like it can be, we can spend like 6 hours just talking about the gates now. We're not going to do that, Wade.
Right. No, even just the last 20 minutes that we've sort of expanded on. It's already like you could go hours and hours and hours just on bindings.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And yet, I think that's also one of the things that can send you down in the dark hole, right?
Absolutely.
So the challenge is, how do I make it simple?
Yeah. Well,
right?
So it was really, really cool. My very last Masters was 2007, and man, I'd already done the. Chris Carmichael was Lance's coach, and I did a 2-week vacation at home, it's called. So I was riding 40 miles a day average. So I was 200 miles over the 5 days, over 2 weeks. And I knew, per all the years of physiology, of learning my own body, that it took me about 6 weeks to peak.
Yeah.
And so I knew it was going to be my last Masters. So I started to the day, to the moment, 6 weeks. But I was already in really good shape. As a cyclist would say, I had all my base miles in. Now we were going to fine tune to win the Tour de France,
Right.
So I was ready to go, and I had my little driver, Ronnie Bischoff, So we get to the Masters finally 6 weeks later, and CP, Chris Parrish, he watches me Thursday afternoon when I get there, ride down the lake, went to both ends. And if anyone watched me or Andy, we'd pass each other like grumpy old men. Like between 3 and 4 ball, we were all walking one end of the lake to the other. What are we watching? The boat, the driver, the set down time, the wash, meaning the backwash. Hey, man, what's the wind doing? What's the wind doing when it changes? What's the peak wind? What's the shallow wind? What are some of my bromios doing that are, he would always have Caleb P to chat with. I would always have Carl and Brett.
Yeah.
They'd be like, dude, Coxie, that other end sucks, man. It's terrible, And you're like, really? They're like, no, man, don't do it. Take your, 10-7 from the other end, So you had this, thing going. But CP watches me then Friday when the juniors ski.
Yeah.
Then he watches me Saturday, and I ripped it, and it was awesome. Absolutely ripped it. Even my buddy Drew Ross goes, Coxie, man, your 38 was rock star. And I was like, right on, man. I wanted my boys to say that.
Nice.
I ran the whatever 4:39 it was to make the cut. And that's all I wanted to do was go on a boat ride with my kids on the Masters, my last Sunday, and take my kids on a little loop around
nice.
Robin Lake, the champions, debut. So back to the story, CP says to me after I skied Saturday, he goes, so Coxie, how many 32s or 35s did you run Thursday to Saturday? I said, I don't know, man, maybe like 60, 65. He goes, you kidding? I said, no, about that. He goes, no, I watched you. He goes, you'd ride down and you'd watch the boat or you'd like take it in. And I said, yeah. And then I would do a 32 and I'd go up the other end. I'd do my 35 and then that was it. And I was be done.
Yeah.
It's my warm up. And then so.
In your mind.
Yeah, in my mind. It was just sort of mental imagery. I could just sort of pace it out, and I didn't need to get out on the beach and walk it out. I didn't need to do a bunch of reaching. I could just sit there and I know Andy wanted the same. We just want that mental image.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go out there and do my deal. And then Ferraro said once when Patrice, our buddy Patrice Martin, when he was the third best skier in the world then, third best slalom skier. This is maybe 95, and I was the best that year, and Patrice was really, really skiing good. It was 95, 96 were my two best years, and those are about Patrice's best in slalom too. And so someone said, then why is Patrice catching those guys, and then why are those two guys way better? So this is starting at 92 on.
Yeah.
And Ferraro just said, because they let their skis run.
Okay.
Yeah, meaning we accepted that we could get our load and then allow the ski to release out and ride and be free of the boat. Be free of the pull of the boat. And that was sort of the beginning of our terminology that's changed from, shoulders back, hips forward. Now you're standing on your back foot and you can't move. All this stuff all the terminology was wrong. And sort of Andy and I were on the cusp of figuring it out, but we really didn't know there was no books. There was nobody's coaching what we were doing. And I was going to people and asking them questions. And I'm like, man, why did my ski work at 41? Well, nobody's been there before.
Right.
There's me and one other dude that are doing it, and we're not sharing our information.
Yeah.
So it was like I said, sort of in the beginning, it's like a lot of it was just exploration. It's like, well, now we got pre-gates. Now what do we do? Now all of a sudden we can change our timing and tempo, all these things. Not to mention how many times cruise control changed. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Or the rope changed, or the boat power changed from little bitty engines to the next thing. It's this massive V8,
right.
400 horse or more.
You're not going to win the tug of war anymore.
No, exactly. So you accept, sometimes it'd be from one round to the next. Well, the rules just changed.
What? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's a 4-blade on the prop on the boat now, not a 3-blade.
Right.
Just all those things that you just said, well, as soon as the boat comes around the corner down there, none of that stuff matters anymore.
Yeah.
You got your diet. Sorry if you're 10 pounds overweight, you already lost.
Yeah. That's how competitive it is.
Yeah, you already lost. Yeah. So your shoulders jacked or your back is totally jacked. Yeah, your odds just decreased. Exponentially.
Right.
Compared to if you're super fresh.
Yeah, especially when you get to that high level. I mean, you guys were nearing world records to win tournaments. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Well, and then the neatest part was me and Andy did our run, but then all of a sudden, CP.
Right.
We watched him ski when he was 16. All of a sudden, when he shot up, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's like another level. And then Jamie, comes along, and then they both. Now there's a top 4. Now there's back to like when I was a kid. And there was Andy, Mike, Bob, and Carl.
Yep.
Those 4, and it's like, well, the best everybody else is going to do at the beginning of the year is 5th.
Wow.
Right. This was like late 80s into early, and then I finally broke in. But it was like one year I got 5th. I'm like, man, that's the best I could possibly do.
Right.
Right. How much? I mean, I get otherwise these 4. So then all of a sudden there's Jamie and CP, and then it just brought on another sort of wealth of talent that followed. Obviously, Marcus. Rossi, there was all of a sudden a lot of Europeans, that were ripping it. Glenn Campbell, obviously the British contingent was always really, really difficult to deal with.
Yeah, because they do good in rough, don't they?
Oh, and they don't mind the cold, all that stuff. Yeah.
Jody, all of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So, and late 80s, you said if it was, if I could get 5th, that would be, solid. But you won your first pro event in 89 on that beautiful white HO Extreme.
Yeah, no, that was it, 89. Yeah.
White with pink logos.
Yeah.
You remember that tournament?
Yeah, that was St. Louis. Yeah.
How did it go down?
Well, then you made Friday to Saturday was the cut to make top 8.
Yeah.
And then Saturday to Sunday, the cut was to go 8 to 4.
Okay.
And then you would go into the head-to-head brackets.
So it was a 4-skier head-to-head bracket.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I had Andy in the first bracket.
Ooh.
And I mean, even I was rooming with Carl Roberge, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, Cox." I'm like, "Really, man? You make it to a final. I'm all jacked up, and I get Andy in the semis. Okay, whatever, So we go. I went 35. He chose to go second because we didn't have the tiebreak rule as it is now.
Okay.
It was an older tiebreak rule where, because me and Andy had done all those tie breaks to change the rule to make us take the European rule.
Yeah.
So he chose to go second because the tie would get you a runoff. Mm-hmm. I run 35. He falls. I think 2.5. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the finals, bro. You got to be kidding me. I didn't even try. Maybe I tried 38. I don't even remember because I'm like, now I get second place money, period.
Yeah.
And when you're broke and you're like 18, 19, second place money is way better than third or fourth, right?
Of course.
So then the other head-to-head is Shea Lander and Bruce Neville, the Goose.
Wow.
So same deal. Bruce sort of ripped it on Saturday like I did in the really rough water. And we were mutters, like Aussie rules footy or rugby, hey, just tough it out.
Right.
So same deal. Shea Lander goes down. Bruce is now through to the championship. And then I chose to go first because I was absolutely wigging out. Carl had missed both the slalom and the jump final. So he was so mad he just flies home. And I think Brett was already gone. I know Kyle was there with me, Kyle Tate.
Yeah.
And because we rode back to Arkansas together after. And we're just kids. And now I'm in the final.
Right.
I'm like, oh, my gosh. So I go first and run 32, 35. And at 38, I get a decent start. And then I think I dive at 4-ball and I get, 3.25, 3.5.
Yeah.
And I really did think that it's got to be enough. And Bruce turned 2 like he's going to go more. And I think he pulls up inside 3. And
lefty or righty, Bruce?
He was righty.
Oh,
but
okay.
he ripped 2. And I was like, oh, no, he's really going to beat me, this jumper. Oh, my gosh. And so this little short blonde jumper is going to crush me. And so he let me off the hook, so yeah, I sort of owed him ever since. Yeah,
that's cool, man. Yeah. First pro win.
Yeah, no, that was a big deal because I was maybe I just turned 20, but yeah, it was a big deal then because there was still Brett Thurley, Mick, Neville, Bob. We mentioned Chris LaPointe. Man, there was just a ton of slaloms. Battle Day, John Battle Day was at some of those events. So yeah, to actually sneak through and win that one was a neat deal.
Yeah. So that was, I find it interesting how you said, like CP was coming through and Jamie, you were that guy, 19, 20, coming through.
Yeah. No, that was a fun time.
Yeah. When was your first Worlds?
Matteo, that's the thing. There's a lot of things that have changed about skiing for the better, a lot of things for the worse on the professional side.
Yeah.
But my first Worlds was 89 in West Palm. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't ski 91, 93 Worlds.
Yeah.
I was in college, and then I skied 95. Then I didn't ski 97, 01. 05. There's a bunch of Worlds I skipped, and then sort of, maybe, right around the same time when Will and Thomas, yourself, all of a sudden collegiate skiing got really, really big.
Yeah.
Because all the pros were going to college, where all the pros when I was a freshman were pro water skiers.
That's
like
all
pro
they did.
Surfers.
Yeah, that's all they did.
Exactly. And so I saw a couple of the pros going to college, like Helena Shaylander, John McLeay, who was my hero, Florida State.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rest in peace, John. So he was my hero. He, came to Florida State and was like, man, I can still ski and go to college. So I tried. I went to UCF and went to school, but I only skied one semester. Sort of that bum deal. I wish I went to college right now and I could go and, I went to your nationals last year at San Marcos and there's 24 teams and they're all set up tents and they're all there at 7 a.m. when the first skeeter goes. And I was really, really envious that I didn't get to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the world's and the collegiate skiing are like the two things that I'm like, well, if I could do it again, I would just go back and go, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, and do those.
It's the world's. What are you talking about? You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm bummed I didn't win.
The world.
I should have won it 95. That's my, I mentioned 95, 96 are my two best years, and
95 was Rock Bruin, right?
yeah, I know. And Clint Stadabar, Benny's dad,
Yeah.
he reminds me about every year or two. He says, yeah, we threw that in there, watched it, with all our students. And I said, yeah, I'm still pissed about it. Yeah.
Well, what happened?
I blew the tail.
Yeah.
And I blew the tail in a tournament, I think exactly once in my whole life. And I think that was it.
Wow.
On a toe side, on a 1-3, because I just didn't do it. I didn't push. I would push on 2-4, but I didn't push with my feet on the ski, like an amateur would do and blow the ski out of the water. I would always, if the ski was going to wheelie or if it was going to sort of maybe dive in too heavy, I would allow it to, its space. And like we talked about Mike Ferraro saying, let the ski run. We let it move out. We're going to let it move back in, and so I don't know if I skied like, down the back of a little mini roller and my front bevel loaded up just enough to bam. But I was turning 3 at 39 early, and all I had to do was get the ski outside 5. And there were 2 scores on the board with 4, and I ripped 1 and 2. And so that was it. Actually, when I got my USA Water Ski Hall of Fame nod, which was, like the coolest thing that ever happened. Yeah. My friend Ronnie that we talked about, she goes, well, you can let that go now.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm too competitive to completely let it go. But
I saw the video. Yeah, your hair was like all gelled up, and you were, in a suit. It was a cool deal, wasn't it?
That was a really, really special deal.
Yeah. And I always find like when you were inducted, there was this video going around with like a reel of your best moments. And the video ends with you saying, what were the words? Like you used to worry about it, and now you're just skiing, and that's it. You remember that interview?
Yeah.
What was the context? Like, when was that? Do you remember when they asked you
that? A lot of it is like we talked about, we're sitting out here at, I call him Mr. Lake 38. Yeah, at Keys Lake. And see the pregate sitting out there. It got to be where, as simple as, like CP watched me ride my bike down there, and I was like, man, when I go out there, and it got when I got disciplined and I could control my focus. Once I jumped in the water at the start dock and I grabbed the handle, my nerves would go mostly away.
Yeah.
But then I would get this just ridiculous hyper focus, because I had been working for this moment. Now I'm at 32 off. I'm at Okehele Park, or I'm at Robin Lake. I'm like, dude, all you got to do is go left and then go right. And then you got to trust and have faith that the ski's going to do what we're designing it to do. And, and then if I didn't do that, I'd be mad at myself. If I did that and my ski didn't work, get a better freaking ski.
Yeah.
Because when are you? Is your mind right? Is your body right? Is your fitness? Your diet, all of that stuff. Your sleep. You mentioned that earlier. If you can look, and even a buddy of mine said, hey man, if you can put your head on the pillow at night and you can sleep knowing you did that, dude, you're going to sleep good. Get up the next morning and go, yeah, man, let's do it again.
Yeah.
And Nick Saban, our Bama buddy that, crushes all of our other dreams from other schools except UCF Knights 2017 national champions. But he always talks about the process.
Right.
And I think when you called me about doing this interview, I told you I watched that movie Moneyball. I absolutely love it because he says at one point, Brad Pitt, the lead, says, it's a process, it's a process, it's a process.
Yeah.
And I just knew if I did my process that I was go out there and I was either going to crush it or I wouldn't. And I did. Even Geraldine Jamin, my little French friend, who she's been skiing over with Ronnie the last week or so, she watched me at a tournament. It was like a World Cup in Britain.
Yep.
We're at Thorpe Park, 99.
Nice.
And she saw me before the final. If you saw me Friday morning, Saturday morning, most of the time was like I was trying to escape a Terminator face. Like I was, my nerves were getting the best of me because I knew all I could do was to lose the damn tournament. I couldn't win it. It's just part of the process. I got to deal with the nerves, got to deal with the conditions, got to deal with all this crap. All these people talking to me, sponsors you got to go do your autographs after you ski, you know. And then as soon as the deal was over Saturday and you make the cut, you're like, whew, all right.
Right.
Now we got to just chill. Now you got to like let that go. And then I would go and have dinner. And most of them I did sleep good because Pete Sampras, my tennis hero, talked about that. You got to sleep and trust it. So I learned how to sleep good. And then back to that, Geraldine saw me that day, and then I crushed it, that tournament. I remember I absolutely crushed it. And she goes, I knew you were going to win like an hour before the final. I said, well, how do you know? Why do you say that? She goes, I just saw you. Everyone else is still with the Terminator face, with the nerves. And she goes, you're back there jamming with the music. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I was, because I was feeling it, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm just going to go out there and let it happen.
But see, I think that's a great point you bring. I think you managed to let it happen because of all the process work before.
No,
it's not just something that you fake and you go, I'm just going to chill and then ski. That's never going to work.
Because the nerves would eat me up, man, like Tuesday morning when the work week started until Saturday when the last semifinal was over. It was hell, man. It was like hard as hell to manage all that.
Yeah.
You know, all of the above that we've talked about. You know, did you drink enough water? Did you get enough sleep?
Yeah.
Is your fin set up right? Is your binding set up right? Is your flex right? Is your body weight right for this flex? You know, you can get all these doubts and have all these, all that stuff we talked about at California, there a month or so ago. There's all of these things that you got to manage. And then back to the books that my dad had us read is now we got to let our body move.
Yeah.
Get the mind out of the way. And let our bodies, who we've trained to be, we're not like snipers in the military, but we're trained snipers on the water.
Right.
This is your job. And I love what they said, asked Lance Armstrong a few years ago after what he missed the most, is he said, just having that singular focus. Mm-hmm. Bradley Wiggins, the cyclist, said the same thing. And even his wife said when he's in that focus mode, he's like a locomotive. He's just blowing through things in life.
Yeah.
Money, you have a child, you move houses, whatever, you change teams. Bradley's on the locomotive running through walls.
Yeah.
You ain't heard nothing you said, man. It just bounced off, and he dealt with it, compartmentalized, suppressed, like all of your words. You just like, whoo, boom, Teflon, it just bounces off. Let it go to somebody else. You know, and I enjoyed that. It was difficult, but I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Although eventually, I guess, like after a while, it can take a toll, right? I mean,
well, yeah, I did some interviews with Marcus a while back, and that was it was, the relationship with Andy was, like we were like super villains against each other, and he would get better, and then I would get closer, and I'd be like almost there, and then all of a sudden he would get better again, and then I'd get better again. So it was one of those things where I pushed him and he pulled me, and that's, we talked about that earlier, that sort of buoy change that happened.
Yeah.
And all of these things we just discussed, it was like all changing. Now we're learning way more about the body. Now we're doing core work. We didn't do core work before.
Right.
Now it's just like, wow, hey man, and I love my boy Will Asher, but I was a bit like Will. I acted like I already knew everything. So if you said something I didn't know anything about, I was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. And then as soon as I went home, that's the first thing I tried. I'm like, wow, hey, Matteo, did you hear what they were talking about? Come over to my house, man. We got to try that,
Right.
Because anything for an edge.
Anything.
Anything. You're like, oh, man, whatever. Let's go do that,
Yeah.
Whatever. So.
Yeah. What were because, you said 95, 96, you were at the top of your game, right? Like your best seasons. Anything in particular that stood out? Something that was working well for you? Was it a ski? Was it something you figured out?
Yeah, it was a lot of that.
Okay.
Yeah, just a lot of that. And then
your focus.
Yeah, then it was just all of that. Yeah, I got to where it was, with Chris Parrish, we mentioned his name earlier. We worked a lot this spring, sort of getting his base miles.
Yeah.
Back, because he's come back from his injury, and we talked a lot about the setup, and from how much I simplified it. Mm-hmm. He plays basketball all the time, so I'm always trying to relate with the people I coach, and get them something to simplify it,
right.
Make it easy. And because in the free throw in basketball, a lot of players, they take 3 dribbles.
Yeah.
Dribble, release.
Right.
And so, yeah, a lot of it was just, man, if you can get back to that again, then your fun factor is way higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even, how competitive it would be, I would still relate it back to, man, it's just got to be simple, and I got to enjoy it and have fun.
So were you able to simplify in those 2 years?
Well, yeah, and I guess this was the epitome of it. Was Christy Overton asked me what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Brett's driving, Christy's skiing. In the passenger seat, and I was skiing. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, I don't think I'm thinking. And so she says, again, and the next pass, I almost see her talk to Brett. And then she goes, well, no, I can see your lips are moving. She goes, are you giving yourself keys?
Uh-huh.
I said, no, I'm singing.
What?
She goes, are you serious? I said, yeah. And she goes, what are you singing? I'm singing. I said, I'm singing this 4 Non-Blondes song, What's Up? And she looked at Brett and goes, no wonder he's so good.
Uh-huh.
Because I got it to where, and that was the first day of the week, was always, per my work with Tommy, we worked on one day a week, I would have a little mini peak in the middle of the week.
Okay.
And then I'd peak again on Sunday. Okay. So any other days were just maintenance, and I had a specific agenda, and it would build through the week, the intensity. But the first day would be to go out and just get reps in. Mm-hmm. It's like a tennis player or golfer. Hey, man, when it's going to the range, all I need to do is go get some reps in. And that's when I completely learned to absolutely mind peace out on those days and disattach myself from, I'm not thinking, I don't got to win the tournament today. It's Tuesday, man.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. I just got back from one.
Just got back from one, man. I'm not even done with, enjoying the fact that I won that one, or I'm still really pissed off that I lost it, you know.
Yeah.
But go out, hey man, let's just. So we get, you know, I even told some people the other day, Zane Swank, you know, our good buddy, the pro wakeboarder, pro barefoorder, pro show skier, his brother, Olympic swimmer. He said about me, he says, well, Wade's a pro wakeboarder trapped in a slalom skier's body.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because I even the old guy, our sound guy on the pro tour during the 90s, his name was Keith. And Keith was awesome. He was always on the center stage, always just sitting to the side of the announcers. And he sort of ran the soundboard, you know.
Yeah.
And so if there was ever a lame song on, and not that Keith, because Keith was sort of a rock star.
Right.
I would just look at him like, bro, man, like that's what you're giving me like the 30 minutes before I ski. And then he would, the next song, he would go, all right, this one's a shout out to my man Wade. And I'd be like, there you go. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that was, all of that was learned behavior.
Yeah.
That was the neatest part about it. It's from being a kid, and then my dad, and watching video, and then watching others, watching Carl, that sort of started our conversation. You know, getting to be where I could be a pro's pro. And so I, you know, I told someone this year that I skied at 9 a.m. for like 15 years straight.
Yeah.
And I only varied it per the time zone that I was going to. Because I read that. Why
Right.
wouldn't you train for the time zones?
Yeah,
So
of course.
I was way ahead of a lot of people because I was going to bed super early or staying up super late. So when I'd get there, I'd be like, all right, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't sleep
to
on
go.
the plane, or no, I slept on the plane because that was part of my prep for
Yeah.
sleeping when I get there. So,
Yeah.
you know, it just became, like just a part of the game.
Yeah, but at the same time, very committed to the process, as you said.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely, man. All of it. So sort of was, you'd be questioning any of it, you know,
Yeah.
and all of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, going back to the set where you were sort of like singing with Christy in the boat, I think that comes once your process is sound. Yeah. So if your process is sound and you're super committed to it, you may have to adjust every now and then, but it gives you the freedom of, you know, going back at night, put your, you know, rest your head on the pillow and sleep, as opposed to have all these like second guesses.
Right.
I think if your process is solid and you're planning well, you can put you can put yourself to sleep well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the you know, I guess was my secret sauce, if you will, was just that preparation. I remember like in the 93, went up to Corey's place in Destin, and I had 2 really good years, and then I was back in finishing. I must have graduated that Christmas, finally, from You Can't Finish, UCF.
Yeah.
So I was on the 6-year program, you know?
Yeah.
So I've taken a bunch of hours, and I'm not practicing, and we go up there for some tournament, and I get my ass kicked. I mean, just destroyed. I'm like more than a pass behind.
Yep.
And I'm embarrassed, bro. I'm like, oh my gosh, I will never show up unprepared ever again. You know. So that already started in 92. I'm like, no, I'm going to be prepared. Or I slipped a little bit after 2 good years. And then, spring 94, I didn't do great through 94. Why? Because the fall 93, I took that break, too big of a break. And so then my fall season and my midwinter training, all that became really specific as well. So I wouldn't, add that slip of baseline miles again, if you will.
Yeah,
you know?
That's something that I think. I mean, I'm a skier. I know skiers. I just don't see that happening that much anymore. Like people are just sort of starting their season. You know, let's say they have a longer winter because of whatever they live. And then as soon as they can run 38, they go to 39. As soon as they can run 39, they go to 41. And they don't move. Like, you know, they don't do a set of like 32, 35, 238s.
Yeah,
home.
no, man, I did it completely different. And maybe Brett and I both Brett Thurley, again, we were really trying to think outside the box, and we did, per us skiing some 4-buoy tournaments, and per us overtraining, then we started doing some sets where we were only doing the gates 1 and 2. And I guess Ken White, our old buddy from Texas, used to do that. And so we would turn 2 and allow the swing arc to go all the way out to 3, just to see how early we could get it. And then after we did that, like a week on our second set or something, we would do that. You know, Brett and I discussed it. We're just like, man, well, those are way better than when we go back and we're like, oh, now I'm going to run 38. Because now all of a sudden we're in this total mindset, this absolute final, you know, are we going to run 38 or not? You know, our nerves maybe, you know, all this stuff that would jump in your head versus I'm just skiing a 2-ball.
Right. Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, it's just going a 2-ball, man. So anyway, I started doing a lot of free skiing.
Yep.
Some of it was because of photo shoots.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're like, hey, man, we got to rip this shoreline with those pine trees, and we got to need the sun right there. And I was like, sometimes I would come back after doing one of those photo shoots, and I was like, well, I'm skiing better than I ever have in my freaking life. And I free skied for 4 days straight. Not a buoy in sight, man. And I'm just ripping with Tom King. We're chatting, you know, we get TJ, you know, his set guy, you know, I guess they call him a grip, you know, the guy, and man, we're all hanging out, and then I'd go and win the next tournament. I was like, wow, okay, well, that was kind of funky. So then I started free skiing preseason a lot. A lot. Then I got to where I was, even mid-90s, I got to where I was, you know, could free ski through 35 and 38 after, and I would ski for a lot of times 2 to 4 weeks before I would even go to the course.
Where would you free ski?
A lot of times just 32s.
But where?
On Lake, a lot of that was on Lake, I guess it was Lake Louise. No, sorry. Horseshoe Lake.
Horseshoe Lake.
Yeah, in Chiliota. But all this was out on the east side of Orlando where I moved in 87 to go to college. And then eventually, you know, we talked about product changing, boats changing, ropes changed. So much had changed that that by the time we got at HO, who obviously you've been with for how many years now?
9.
9? So I've been 31.
Yeah, well, you beat me
so
there
yeah,
for sure.
So now all of a sudden we have, you know, a super lightweight core. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like from jumping out of a you know, a little Ford Fiesta.
Right.
Like this into a Porsche.
Right.
With hydroponic, whatever you call it, tranny.
Well, you could say Ferrari, that would be better, but that's okay.
No, yeah, but right. No, but the same deal.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Like, well, even my buddy said, it's like when you're towing with an underpowered vehicle, and then you unhook the boat, and then you pull out of the driveway, you go, wow, I can go fast again. Right. That's the way I felt.
When you got to Super Light Core.
Yes. And I was like, okay, this is different. So Dave Wingirter, who I call Soundgarden because of our buddy Bob Marley. Right. Big shout out to him. And so I said, Dave, I'm going to relearn how to ski this fall. And I want you to do it with me. He just graduated college, so he comes and hangs out.
What year?
This was fall 04.
Fall 04.
And so this was sort of going back to what initially we talked about with the trick skiing. Mm-hmm. Is I'm like, okay, I'm going to be able to have better balance, work less, and be earlier. Sign me up for all this.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah, this is going to work. So then it took so with Dave and I we would surf. We would ski, and then we would go mountain bike riding. Mm-hmm. Or we would mountain bike and then we'd ski. on the trails over, it's awesome riding over in the Little Big Econ State Forest, 17 miles of single track. So
wow.
In the deep forest. So we had really, really cool riding. So I was figuring out how to ride the bike like Jamie Beauchesne was using snow skiing. I was getting my inside hip up, riding the higher line, and getting my inside center mass up through the shoulder into my reach like I'm a snow skier pole planting. And like Jamie said, I can do it, snow skiing, do thousands of turns a day. And I'm like, well, now I'm doing thousands of turns a day on my mountain bike. Mm-hmm. So in skiing, though, it took me 6 weeks of free skiing, doing what I call now the cut and coast, before I could consistently just turning on the gates from either side, because I make my students now learn gates from the other side.
Interesting.
So it makes you learn the course like you're skiing the other foot forward.
Yep.
So it took me 6 weeks before I could do it. Same as like a jumper, just riding their skis for the first time, before I could do it without pushing, pulling, or falling back. Simply trying to fall into the load prematurely. And I'm thinking to myself, after the 6 weeks, after this self-realization once again, I'm like, man, I've been the best guy in the world at times, and I've done it wrong every day of my life. And I'm like, I've been coached wrong. I can't believe that we're actually using our equipment so poorly. Mm-hmm. So then Dave was like going, man, Coxie, what are you talking about? You are just speaking some foreign language, bro. But I was seeing what Rossi, Jamie, T-Whisper, and Marcus were doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're using their tool differently than me and Mapple. We're old school. I was more new school than Mapple. But I'm like, I got to be way more new school if I'm ever going to compete and want to win again.
Right.
Because now there's like 400 guys to beat.
Right.
Drew, Steve Cockrum. There's just a bunch of Italians, Matteo, Fabio. There's all Chris Rossi, who mentioned, all these dudes that they can win a tournament, So that 6 week period was just like, oh my gosh, it changed the way I coach now. Like 15 years later, I've got a little set of drills that I go through with people. And I really want you, when you haven't skied for 2 to 6 weeks, so you still have some stamina in your stance. You still got some sort of base fitness, but you've lost your balance. And that's like the GPS. I hit the recalculating button on your balance, and I teach you how to use your tool better. And because once I had to go back to the drawing board completely again, and then I realized, well, man, we're just doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. We're pushing on the ski, and we're pulling on the rope, and we're falling back instead of forward. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So anyway, that made it really, really fun, because now all of a sudden, even though my body was wrecked, like we talked about Will came to me one day and he goes, hey man, are you going at like 60% or less going through the gates now? Yeah. I said, yeah, exactly, or less. Because now, like we talked about earlier, the boat's way stronger. We got this ZO or a perfect pass that's running way faster. Yeah. And the skis are way lighter, faster. They're riding flatter in the water. We're varying the concave and all this stuff that Dave does, that we never did that stuff before. Now we got these like next level, nuclear science skis that, instead of, it's just, so
boundary there should work,
Yeah, no. So anyway, it was really neat to actually get to ride the skis that they're riding today. We were sort of riding them then, and, they're just minor differences than the ones that we developed, the last few years I was skiing, And then what's really cool for me, what's very gratifying for me, is that when this spring there was 3 or 4 tournaments in a row that like 2 or 3 at 41 was winning. Yeah. I was like, man, dude, that's like me and Andy 20 years ago, So 99 and 2000, all of a sudden we first started running, mid 41 in pro events, sort of everywhere. And it was like, well, if you can't get to 3 at 41, you're just going to get second. or
Yeah.
third.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and then we'll continue in a second. Okay. Hey everyone, just taking the opportunity to leave a message since me and Wade had a break here. Well, thanks again to everyone for supporting the podcast, for listening in. If you're not subscribed and you're listening to this on other platforms or in your usual platform, but you're not subscribed or following, make sure to do so because it really helps the podcast. And if you want to send a few bucks this way, by all means. I have been asked to do advertisement on here, but for now I'd rather hold on just to stay a bit independent and interview who I want and do whatever I want with this. So yeah, if you want to help out, you can find a PayPal link on thewaterskipodcast.com/support. Thank you. Back to the interview. Your career, so you did jump into that, So yeah, we already did like an hour 15 in. I think maybe we do like maybe 30, or we see where it goes.
Yeah.
I was thinking probably I'd release it in a 2 parts.
And all that stuff that we talked about was, that hour 15 was like the meat and potato stuff.
Yeah, of course.
We weren't like telling stories necessarily, or
yeah.
No, it was really about the performance stuff, which is which I wanted to sit down and chat with you about, is all of this, making it this simple.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah,
it's
it is
challenge.
absolutely. Yeah,
and I think the stories are fun, and I think I might brought you back again just for a few stories, because when we were in Cali, I heard some of them, and I was just like, please, more. But what I want to talk with you about is, like, I know you coach a lot of juniors, and I want to tell you a story, like, when I skied my first junior masters, okay? So it was my second junior masters, was 05, and starting from the beach end, right? Second to last, I think, or third last, skied 3.5 at 38, massive explosion at 4, massive. I had no business of trying to turn it. I still tried, exploded out of my bindings, and I was in the lead after that. And I was swinging towards the pavilion, kind of like happy but sore, and I there's the little dock, get out of it, cross through the crowd. I didn't know anyone at the time. I was there with Bubu Alessi that brought us there. And then as I'm walking down the stretch in the pavilion, the walkway, you are walking towards me, and I obviously knew who the hell you were. And, I was like, oh, wow, like it's Wade Cox, and you just said, sick crash, dude. You skied very well. That stayed with me for years, right? Like I won the Masters then, and then obviously the day after I didn't, but I won the Masters that day. I guess, I know you haven't skied in a few years. What makes you, want to continue coaching? Why you're still in it?
Well, I went and did insurance for a while. Mm-hmm. Like I did 5 years in the insurance business, and I'd already sort of, I'd been a realtor and did quite a few property deals, like, turning parcels and splitting them up, and then the economy crashed really bad, like the 06 to 08, sort of economy, and then I got into the insurance, which is what my dad did, and had my own agency for a while. I was partners in, and ended up sold it and was gonna do my own deal, and I started coaching a bunch again while I was waiting to buy either a business or start my own. And then I don't know, it was a certain freedom in it. I love the life. I don't live for money and cars and houses and things like that, and so that that experience. The juniors, one thing that's a really unique experience to get to work with him for now summers and summers. You know, where you know them. Really, really know them, and you've seen them grow and change. But just a daily deal when just someone's got a job and they've got kids, maybe young kids or college kids, and man, all they want to do is go water skiing.
That extra buoy.
Yeah, or they just to go out and free ski, or just to go out and go to the lake and go down and back, 6 times.
Yeah.
It's just like that's what they want to do. They're not golfing, they're not playing tennis, they're not motocrossing, they're not fishing. They're like, no, man, they want to go water skiing. So even Ronnie, we talked about her a lot, earlier. I said once, hey, why don't the juniors, I'm not getting a good rapport with them. Yeah. And she's like, well, it's because you're Wade Cox, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what are so now that a lot of the kids don't know who I am, it's totally cool if they find out later, from their dad or from their grandpa, yeah, man, he was actually really good. Because what I really want to do is just help them have fun. And I've gotten good at doing that. Yeah. Whether I've got him for 1 set or 2 sets, I already know I got a plan. Yeah. If I got him 2 days, 3 days, or if I've got him 4 summers. Yep. To infinity and
and beyond.
Yeah. Like my kid with Buzz Lightyear deal, exactly. So then I just go, okay, here's what I think we can accomplish, and yeah, I just really enjoy it. I really do. Yeah, I get a lot out of it.
Nice. Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, I've coached a few kids myself, and I don't think there's anything as rewarding where something breaks through and they manage to do it. Right. Or when they just come back to the dock with a smile.
No, exactly.
I mean, there's a few things that repay you as
much.
And
then there's, if you're a golfer at all, you've watched Phil Mickelson hit a shot, one of those ridiculous flop shots over the bunker, blind, whoops. And the next thing it's, 2 foot from the pin, and he just has this big grin on his face. Yeah. And so, I was skiing with Parrish. It was just about 3-4 weeks ago. And he does 32, 35. He's on his 3rd pass at 38. And he comes off 5 ball, and he's, 40 feet early for 5. Right. Waiting over the ski patiently. He rips off 5, and he's having one of those moments, and he looks at me. I'm driving. He looks at me in the mirror and is smiling. The lady in the boat goes, he's at 38 off, and the dude's busting out a grin because he's doing it so good.
Yeah, and Chris Parrish good, which is probably the best that it gets.
As good as it can get. As good as it can get. And I get that a lot when someone has that breakthrough moment, Matteo, and then they just can't help it. They just bust out this grin. And I'm hitting the guy in the boat going, look, check it out. They're so stoked. They're just smiling. Yeah, they're just radiating happiness. You see them. I'm like one of my buddies, Brian Wiley, from out in Olympia, Washington area. He ran 38 a couple years ago, and it was a real warm, sunny day for the Pacific Northwest. And Travis Feldhager, our buddy, was there and was in the boat. I was driving, and so Brian runs 38. Right. It's been a couple years, 3 years since he'd run 38. So after I'm pulling his daughter and the last 2 kids at the lake and Travis, and then I leave, and then I text him 2-3 days later. I'm like, hey, Brian, did you put your shirt back on yet? Right? Because you just see that feeling he had was, wow, that was such a neat deal. And I guess the best moment in water skiing that moment when you get out of the water on your two skis or one.
Yeah.
That's not really the best because you're an absolute sideshow at that point. You're freaking out. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But once you learn to ride the ski and then all of a sudden someone introduces you to that stupid slalom course.
That addiction called slalom
that
course.
first day, certainly a lot of times through an adult, that they've worked for this a bit. You know, maybe it's been a summer or two. And, man, when they make that 6 buoy the first time, to see that joy, I mean, it's second to none, right?
Yeah, it is.
You know, they're just like, oh, I didn't think it would ever happen, you know?
And, you know, I think the other one that is amazing, because, you know, we have a ski school in Italy. Yeah. I think there's that sweet moment, sweet spot that I would say it's like 30 to 32 miles per hour to like the first few buoys at 28 off, where people just go insane. Wade. Like, we had club members whose wives came to my coach and said, don't let him ski as much. Like, this is affecting, you know. He was up at 3 a.m. holding a toothbrush because he told him he had to work on a gate. You know, like, it's so good to see.
Yeah, but so then my joke always back, Matteo, was, hey, man, look, you guys are like amateur club skiers. And you guys take it more serious than I do as a pro. So just relax, man. Yeah. Go back to bed at 3 a.m. Yeah, right. It's okay. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. But I tell them, well, that's what I think about when I'm in a rent car for 6 hours driving Deer Lake. I'm thinking about stuff like that too. As well, how can I get them to feel that better? You know.
Yeah. And now you're doing it for others. That's the thing.
Well, and yeah, I think it's for. We talked about, you know, like college football coaches or whatever, but it's the same for any coach especially when you invest a lot of time and there's this singular goal, like with my little buddy Jack Koenig from Ohio, 2 full seasons before he won Boys Won Nationals, I told his father, we're going to win the Nationals in whatever, 2016 it's going to be, or whatever, 2017. And so by 2016, I said at Nationals, we're going to be the top junior, you know, meaning if you're last year, you're a senior, you know, like high school. So he was ranked, you know, whatever, inside the top 10, which is what our goal was.
Yeah.
So he goes and he took a little bit of a beat down, you know, which is exactly what I'm like, well, if we don't go and crush it and do really, really good, we at least want to go and stand down there on the dock at the end, and then we'll be back next year. So Jack was one of my first students that he was 8 years old, Matteo, and he asked me, Coach, can I go out of the course and work on my drills?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I was like, bro, the water has just parted, man. We have reached new levels.
Moses
right?
showed up, yeah.
Yes, no, man, because I get, you know, and so anyway, it was like we were learning from each other, you know, and it was neat. So then by the time 2 nationals later, he's top seed, and he goes out and there wasn't a point goal. There wasn't a PB goal. It was, the goal is gold.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
You know, and it was achieved, and it was such a neat deal. And yeah, that's for a coach to actually, you know, see it materialize and be part of it. It's like, it's a neat deal because you just sit your back and go, man, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
All I did was help them prep.
Yeah.
You know, all I can do is help, and then you're going to do it. But hopefully my help and my prep is going to allow you, like we talked about earlier, the process is going to be so refined that you get there and you just do what we're disciplined to do.
Yeah.
And then that's going to be minute work, you know.
And that's what I think a lot of people sometimes, at least in my field, in sports psychology, deviate. Because we do know by now, focusing on process goals is the best thing, right? Because it leads to performance, and if performance is well, it leads to outcome. And so a lot of times I hear, well, you shouldn't be too focused on the outcome. I'm like, well, I'm an athlete. I'm working with an athlete. They care about the gold. Now, how do we get there? Through the process.
Yeah.
But I think you don't want to forget the outcome that you're working towards, right?
No, I think it's the neatest deal is to own it.
Yeah.
And then shelve it.
Yeah.
You go, no, man, yeah, well, I can't get that medal until I put in all of this work, and you go through all this process. So that's a neat thing, and I like it too when sometimes you tell them what they're gonna do,
Right.
and you're like, whatever, you might be working with a junior girl, and you're like, I know you're running 3 at 28 right now, but in like 2 summers you're gonna be like 4 inches taller and 15 pounds heavier, and instead of being on a 64, you're going to be a 65 or 66, and you're going to be in 35, and that's where we're going to be on the junior team, going for junior masters, junior U.S. Open, and they're like, I don't know about you, and then the goals, they take ownership, and then they believe, and that's all you want them to do is believe.
That's the thing, like process goals. Right, so I want to hit these certain marks or these certain positions or techniques. Those keep you focused, right? And that's stuff that you can rep, right? You talked about the repping is so important. Like you can rep your pull out, you can rep your edge change, you can rep winning gold, but that keeps you motivated. It keeps you motivated to go out at 9 in the morning, 8 in the morning, or after work or whatever, after school, to rep the things you need to rep. So I think you're doing it brilliantly. And the 8-year-old showed it to you, right? Because you already had some long-term stuff, but he told you, hey, Wade, can I get outside of the course here? Got to rep some stuff? Well,
I did that at the end of my career after sort of the 04 deal when I learned all that stuff with Dave. Then especially by 06, my body was breaking down more and more. My psoas, lower back, hips. And then so I developed. I would ski 3 sets a week.
Wow!
And the first set I would just free ski, and then my last pass after I do 3 sort of warm ups, sort of some gate pull outs and some cut and coast. Now the body's warm. I would almost always pick a headwind pass going back to the dock. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it'd be northeast wind, so that would be 4th pass headwind. I would free ski that pass, and that would be the first time that I would actually start from the left and simulate the slalom course precisely. And I would normally do that the very last pass, so the 4th one. Then I would ski, take a day off. Then the second day I would do a little bit of warm up, like again some gate pullouts either side, a little cut and coast, and then right at the end. Now a lot of times I would do 3 warm ups, and I had quite a long lake, like 2,600 feet, so I could get a little more work in. And then the 4th pass would be like, okay, let's go in the course at 32 or 35.
Yeah.
And so I'd get 1 pass in the course, and a lot of times it would already be, because I'd already done that warm-up, and I've already done a 30-minute warm-up on the dock physically, then it was almost like tournament-level adrenaline. Mm-hmm. As far as the body's fully warm, and I'm ready, and now I'm going to go the course for exactly 1 pass.
Wow.
And I would rip it, and almost always did. Like, it was never bad. It just never was.
Yeah.
Because I'd planned for success, and I would. And then I would take another day off, and then day 3 of skiing, which would be day 5 of the week, now I'd go up the rope. And just 32 through 39, 4 passes.
Damn.
And I skied for, 2 years pretty much doing that routine. And even Will said to me last year, we're doing a Marcus interview, and he says, man, I didn't know how you were doing it. We knew you were hurt. We knew you were barely skiing. We knew you were free skiing, but yet you were just absolutely shredding it.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, because I just did it right. I knew I'd sort of gotten where, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this the right way, so I didn't have to deal with failure. Mm-hmm. I didn't move my hip north-south. I didn't move my shoulder, my head, hands didn't tense, feet didn't tense. There's no, and it just took a long time to get there. I wish I could have done it, earlier. I wish I would have had maybe someone like you even earlier, because Tommy really helped me a whole bunch, and then I really got into where it was my own deal. But yeah, like a lot of the golfers, I work at a gym where the gym they train the golfers.
Yeah.
And most of the golfers have someone like you, just so you can develop that process, because I said to you earlier, it was a learned behavior for me.
Yeah.
I learned this is the way I'm going to be when I get to the lake. And on Sundays, I was happy. And I just eliminate everything else, jump out of the car. Woo, this is what I'm here to do. And it was like, it was a discipline to that mood so I could perform.
Right. Yeah. Right. What is, because obviously, you learn through experience, right? And I think we all do. Yeah. But it's obviously nice if that learning is guided, because you can learn better, right? Yeah. What are some of the key things you try to teach when you coach? Like, are there things that you have learned from experience, being a high competitor, or things that you learned from people that influenced you, like Mike and, Tommy? What are some of the things that you try to give to your skiers?
Well, because mainly I coach slalom.
Yep.
Now, I just give them a sort of a fundamental package that. Here's the rules.
Right.
We got to go left before we go right.
Right.
I didn't make the course. Some English guy did.
Right.
They drive on the wrong side of the road. So be it. So there's some givens.
Yeah.
That most of the people I poll them. At the beginning of the day, how many people want to run a slalom course? Everybody raised their hand. Right.
Right.
Even if the free skiers are like, no, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So I just give them some guidelines on the course, a little education there.
Yeah.
And then I give them a little education on how they're going to use, how our movement, we're going to use the ski properly. Mm-hmm. And then we've got this little ZO and this rope that's going to be our balance point. And it's just about like timing a tennis shot or a golf shot. It's just be some timing and some tempo.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
So I can wrap up, hey man, Willie's 41, and nice. He got around the corner. His balance properly in the ski. His movement was at the right time, at the right tempo. Mm-hmm. Well, now he hit ball zero with a chance to gain on the boat coming back through the gate. So if he did that proper, now he gains a little bit on the boat. Now once he swings through the gates out to one, he's gained a little bit more space. So once he finishes one, he can actually beat the course.
Right.
If you're an engineer, so we got a software guy sitting there to build a model, he'd go, yeah, you're right. Once you sort of swing 1 to 2, it's just a rollover then.
Right.
It's just the dunk. But we got to build that. Yeah. Like you're a long jumper, or you're a pole vaulter, or you're a high jumper. We got to build your run up so you can jump.
Yeah.
And ours just a little bit different rules out here, but sort of the same deal. It's easily beatable.
Yep.
Very easily beatable, but we've got to sort of know the rules. So we talk about that, and then once we understand the timing and the tempo of what our movement's doing, it's not that tough.
No. What I had a question, like, so sometimes for this podcast I answer questions that listeners send, and I try to address this, but I want to hear your opinion on this. How do you approach when one of your athletes, or when you were skiing, when you get into a funk, or you get into a slump where you're not progressing, or maybe you're like 3 or 4 buoys behind and you're just there and you can't really figure it out? What do you generally tell your students to do, or what did you used to do when you were getting there? Because they happen, right? They happen.
I think most of the time it happens from overtraining. Mm-hmm. And that's where some diligence to your training schedule.
Yeah.
We alluded to it earlier, and I got a new South African buddy who says the same, man. But everybody does it wrong. We all go out and slalom. We go straight up the rope. Imagine going to the gym and every day you just go to the bench press and max out. Well, actually, some guys do that, right? And we make fun of them.
Yeah, of course.
We're like, look, here comes bench press guy. That's all he does is max out on the bench press.
Right.
So if you do that, oh yeah, you're gonna have some massive valleys.
Yeah.
After some of those strength periods of peaking. So the first thing, if I'm going to coach a junior for a while, is I say, all right, give me your schedule.
Yeah.
One of the big events, winter events where we can be training. I might use them as a test event.
Yeah.
A prep sort of
tournament practice, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I put them through, the same sort of deal that I would, is where we need a peak or a mini peak midweek. So we develop a sense of, I would, even for a lot of my juniors, I put them on we're just making the cut.
Yeah.
We don't win the tournament today. We can lose it today. Right. Like I talked about, a while ago, but we've got to go out and perform. And I heard Adam Picos say this, Corey's son, who I watched 2 years old playing on the Masters stage to become Masters and world champ. So, yeah, I love Adam. So I asked Adam at the Masters a few years ago, hey, Adam, what do you think the cut's going to be in tricks? Like, what's the number? And he goes, well, sort of as usual, we got to see who can go down and back first.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's actually, per Adam saying that, I've been already building my skiing since 92, we talked about it, on 4 passes. So to be a slalom pro and to be a pros pro, you got to be able to go down and back twice.
Yeah.
You got to be able to up your start speed, lower your start speed, opt up, skip a pass, deal with the headwind, deal with the tailwind, and you got to still be able to go down and back twice.
Good marker.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so that's where you'd set up that mini peak. Hey, man, if we can go down and back twice per sun glare, tailwind, you don't like the boat driver, or you don't like nautiques, you don't like Masscraft, or I can't ski behind a Malibu, well, we're doing it right now.
Right.
And here's our sort of baseline performance. Yeah, if you can't go down and back twice, we're not ready yet. We need to do some more, skill work, mental work. You're 10 pounds light, or
possibly
10 pounds
physical
heavy,
work. Yeah.
Right. So, hey, man, this is something that's, we set this goal out for next year, like we might with that Ohio kid Jack earlier. We knew, hey, man, there's no way he's winning this year. Why set the goal there?
Right.
The goal would be the next year anyway. So a lot of that is just, it's nice to have, like we talked about, some guidance.
Yeah.
Some proper guidance is really, really nice. Yeah.
And I think, I interviewed Jay Bennett, obviously world famous coach, a few weeks ago, and he stressed again, like you are, the importance of like long-term planning, right? Yes. So we might have a tournament in 2 weeks, but that is part of the plan for next year. Yes. But we first need to set out what's the plan for next year.
Yes. What's our big long-run goals, and then, okay, well, now we'll back it up because we need some short-run goals to help us get there.
Yeah. So like a ladder model.
Exactly. No, that's it exactly.
Yeah. Beautiful. Let's see. I don't know, man. What do you want to talk about? I've been asking some questions.
Man, it's been great. I've actually really enjoyed this. We've, powering through some coffee and it's all good.
What do you want to say? Any final thoughts?
No, I just I love what you do, and we talked about on the phone how much fun we had when we got that group together. It was a work trip for us, but it turned out to be like one of the coolest trips we ever did, because we had Bob LaPointe, myself, Marcus, Dave Wingirter, all as sort of staff.
Right? Yeah, that's not bad. You know,
that's a pretty good staff.
Yeah, holy shit, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like boat driver and gas boy.
That's insane.
And so No, it was really neat to hang out with this entire team, with everybody sort of on the same page, and everybody's goal oriented, and all of the stuff we spent the last couple hours talking about. And that was, if I pointed something out that I've enjoyed, that was it. We're at a Marx's ranch, and we're all camping out there. It was like a surf trip, or I think I talked about, I felt like I was on a pro cycling team, and
you said
we're camped out at boot camp, and doing our that was a neat deal.
It was amazing. And what I loved about it is that like I said this to Marcus, by the way, said it was like one of the best weekends in his life, actually.
It was fantastic. It was a neat deal.
But at the same time, I remember taking a set with you driving, Bob riding, and Will riding. I mean, we're talking about like freaking insanity of a boat crew, but it was intense. Like I could go out, I could ski, I could exchange ideas with you guys. I didn't feel like this pressure to perform. It was surreal. It was really, really cool. And then obviously, Benny telling stories to Bob. There was so much going on. It was fantastic.
A lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Well, Wade, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.
I did too. Thanks, Matteo. I love what you're doing, man. Keep it up.
Yeah, and safe travels back.
Thank you. See you, man.
Holy shit, man. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah.
Because we talked about like what all the gurus want to talk about.
Yeah.
Hear about.
Yeah. No, this is fantastic.
That's when someone even